Forsaken's characters each have unique abilities and ways to play the game, and despite being pretty good game balancing, there are definitely some that are better than others. I'm briefly reviewing each character, deciding if they need a nerf, a buff, a rework, or should stay the same. This is purely based on my opinions and experiences with each character, and I expect none of these to go through. I just enjoy sharing my views, so enjoy the video. Starting with Noob, I think he's a great character and I'd say he should stay the same. In fact, probably the most balanced character in the game. All three abilities are really distinct and useful in their own ways, making Noob very, very versatile. Honestly, don't think Noob would ever need another change. But I think 007 needs a nerf. His clone ability has such a short cooldown, making it honestly a bit too spammable. I understand the clone is his main ability to trick and escape from the killer, but the cooldown is only 25 seconds. When you consider the clone itself lasts for almost half of that time, this ability can be used several times in a chase, making the killer situation way more annoying. When you have several 007s, the chaos of fake survivors running around exponentially increases. Alright, 2-time needs a rework obviously, but because there's already an announced rework happening to this character probably next week, I'll skip this as it'll be irrelevant soon anyway. Moving on to Builderman, who I think needs a slight rework. Builderman is purely a support character, and his severe lack of mobility really takes a toll on this guy. Having a pretty low 90 health despite possessing some of the best abilities in the game doesn't sit right with me. The two buildings he can place are really good. The dispenser is the building you hide away, and if the killer is distracted enough, you can heal multiple people back to full. I personally think the healing is a really strong factor in Forsaken, and any character who possesses this ability is already really good, but I think Builderman is a bit too powerful in the sentry department. The sentry he builds is an extreme burden for the killer, being a lose-lose situation whenever they step near the pretty long-range sentry. It typically takes 2 slow swings to destroy, or harms you with a constant debuff and slowness too. I personally think in a rework of Builderman, he could be set back to 100 health and a nerf on the sentry. I understand he's a support character and supposed to stay away from the killer as much as possible. I don't know, man, you could take Elliot as an example here, another support character who does have a mobility option ironically, also making him, well, absolutely busted. Elliot needs a nerf. No doubt in my mind that this is one of, if not the best survivor in the game. As I mentioned above, an ability to heal others at Forsaken is a golden ability to have. Healing is typically locked behind 1 or 2 measly medkits hidden around the map, so when you got a survivor who can insta-heal you 35 HP from a range, you got yourself a powerhouse. A 45-second cooldown is hefty, but that doesn't make up for healing an insane 35 HP to any survivor near you. But wait, Elliot does have the lowest natural HP in the game, being a pathetic 80 health. While I do agree with this, he is blessed with something that support characters typically shouldn't have: mobility. The ability called Rush Hour grants Elliot speed 3 for a few seconds. This goes disgustingly fast and is absolutely what I think could deserve a nerf. All you need to unlock this ability is to heal 1 player, and with the recharge a bit shorter than the heal, you can almost always have one of these ready to absolutely book it when the killer comes by. On the topic of support characters, I'll move to Dusakar. Despite probably receiving the largest nerf in Forsaken's history so far, I still think Dusakar could use one small nerf. The amount of resistance gained from spawn protection just doesn't sit well with me at all. The amount of stalling tactics this character has feels way too good. The other 2 support characters have to mostly run headfirst into danger to provide their support, like Elliot needing to be generally close to someone to heal them, but Dusakar can chill on the literal other side of the map and still provide full protection. Now I have 3 Sentinel characters to go over. First is Shadletsky, who I think actually might just need the tiniest buff. The sword attack is straightforward, quick, and has a solid stun, but is also extremely predictable. I feel like the hitbox is way too small sometimes. It is really hard to land a swing with no damage back. As reliable as it is, the 40-second cooldown also feels a bit too hefty. The healing mechanic Shed has does make up for the damage taken by the risks of a sword hit, but the hitbox feels extremely unreliable anyway. Guest 1337 needs a nerf, no doubt in my mind. His array of abilities includes charge, block, and punch, which will create such an obstacle for the killer sometimes. The block is such a good ability that negates all damage from the killer. A successfully timed block gives you a punch which is best to use immediately, knocking back and stunning the killer for a really solid amount of time. This combo is extremely powerful, wasting, stalling, and pushing back the killer. An insanely low 24-second recharge for this duo can make it such an annoying obstacle for the killer, as guests will always throw themselves in the front of the survivors with their 115 health. These recharges and the ability to immediately strike back after a block makes Guest an absolutely busted survivor. Chance is the last survivor to go over, and this guy needs a rework. His place in Forsaken is really strange, playing a survivor who can absolutely be a powerhouse or a pathetically easy kill. His gimmicks are extremely centered around luck, being able to spawn with 70 health, gain up to 5 weakness before even being able to make a single attack, and getting literally killed in 1 to 2 hits if unlucky enough. The luck ability put this character in such a hard place to both rank and decide a solution for. Regarding a rework, I think messing with his max health is fun and all, but is a step in the wrong direction when it comes to balancing. 130 health is broken, even with a weakness debuff, and 70 is pathetic. I'm not really sure how Chance can be balanced out. Moving on to killers, I'll begin with Cool Kid and Jason, which could both stay the same. Neither of these two have crucial issues anyway, and they're both fairly balanced and have their pros and cons. John Doe now, I personally think deserves a buff. Since my last video with hundreds of comments telling me how incorrect I was about John Doe, his gimmick of cutting off players and trapping them along with chip damage from spikes is good, but its overall intended way of playing and abilities don't work well in Forsaken. I think the perfect buff for John Doe is a faster ability takeoff. The digital footprint takes too long to deploy, the tracking ability is a really slow process to activate. John Doe has 0 mobility, and I think this is a great solution to decrease his reliance on a perfectly trapped survivor. Lastly is 1x, and 1x is nothing less than a rework too. He is way too reliant on projectiles, and the devs' attempt to fix that by buffing his speed was no solution at all. I think firstly 1x's projectile cooldown is diabolical. It is nowhere near fair to send 2 different types of projectiles, one every 14 seconds and the other every 18. Secondly, I understand the really loud sound effect played when Mass Infection is about to come flying through a wall, but this doesn't mean Entanglement shouldn't have a pre-fire warning either. This sound effect is the saving grace for 1x when you're a survivor, but it's just one of 2 abilities. Lastly, I think gaining speed from zombies to kill is not fair. If you manage to get this far, you can build up speed, putting the last couple survivors into an unwinnable situation. 1x is a really strange decision for him by the developers. I think the projectiles are way too spammable, and I wouldn't mind other buffs if these cooldowns could get nerfed. But that's every character so far. These are entirely just my opinions, and I'm really curious to see what the balance changes of the next update look like. I'm going to be making a ranking video, which includes TAF and the 2-time rework once they release, so I'm going to hope you can watch that too. And that's it for me.